Hi there, in this video I'm going to show you a basic stretch technique which is predominantly aimed at the rectus femoris. Now, the rectus femoris is one of four of your quadriceps. It's the only one which crosses the hip joint as well, so it fixes onto a little bony nodule in the front of the pelvis and then conjoins with the rest of the quadriceps to insert into the tibia. The rectus femoris is heavily implicated in things like anterior knee pain, and because it's a two-joint muscle it needs arguably a little bit more attention than the other quadriceps. So this technique is going to use your Pilates principles to make sure that you're not going into either a full sense of stretch or making other things problematic at the same time. It's done in a side lying position with the leg that you're going to be stretching uppermost, and you want both knees bent out in front of you, and make sure that your spine is in a neutral position. We don't want to be sagged down in a kind of banana shape. So a little gap underneath here, or trying to rock the pelvic ridge towards your feet. So you've essentially got a parallel line of your spine running with the floor and a comfortable and supported neutral neck position. You don't really want to be in this curved neck position when you're doing side lying stretches or exercises. Now, as I mentioned, the rectus femoris attaches to your pelvis. So when we come to stretch it, it's imperative that we keep this still. This is the origin of the muscle. The insertion of the muscle is down on the tibial plateau, and that's what we're going to be moving away. So first up, grab your ankle and then make sure that you're still centered, both in terms of the anterior-posterior rotation, but also the side bending. We want to eliminate any side bending of the lumbar spine. Before you go into your stretch, you want to think very strongly about anchoring this origin of the muscle. Because if I were to demonstrate and just sling the leg back to stretch, you can see that the front part of my pelvis rotates downwards towards the knee. That's because I've already gone past the point of stretch for the length of this muscle, and it's simply pulling the origin of the muscle with it and causing that anterior rotation of the pelvis, but also an arching in the back and a closing up of the joint space there, which is quite counterproductive, and we want to avoid that. So from the off, I'm using my awareness at this point, using the abdominal wall to pull that bit back up towards my rib cage. Now, I don't actively do that before I start. I'm just fixating there and using almost like imaginary springs. It's quite common in Pilates to talk about this set of imaginary springs between the belt line and the rib cage. And now I've primed that. I'm statically or isometrically contracting that. And now as I move back into my stretch, the more I go, the more I'm thinking, don't let this move. Keep centered, maintain your center, and now I can feel that mild to moderate pull running the length of my thigh down towards the knee. And now I'm in my target stretch zone. I'm all the time thinking about maintaining the integrity of the pelvic alignment, courtesy of that abdominal wall and my core muscles. And I'm keeping my knee and hip at the same height and maintaining the lumbar pelvic alignment throughout. And now I'm holding for 15 to 30 seconds before gently releasing forwards. So there is how you can use Pilates principles and your increased awareness of the regional anatomy to make sure that you're stretching the rectus femoris effectively, but really importantly when you're doing anything hip flexor based and stretching those is that you're not implicating the back into that. We don't want the back being compressed and arched. We want to simultaneously strengthen our core at the front. So we're using the abdominal muscles and those deeper abdominal core to resist the pull of the strong hip flexor, in this case the rectus femoris. And so if you can get that principle established in your stretching, well then so much the better, because you're essentially getting a triple whammy for the singular stretch and avoiding all the problems that can come when you try and do this stretch incorrectly.